What's up, Gloucester Township? I'm Joe Allen here with Keith Gibbons.
How's it going?
Special guest in-house today. We've got Sam Sweet here.
How's everyone doing?
He's getting to be not so special. He's here all the time now.
He's our new go-to guy when I can't. I got a cough in October.
Yeah, you can't get rid of it. It's
I
just
almost
there, so you need to pass it off to someone else.
A week and a half ago, I was like, I think I'm over this cough, and then I got the flu, and then it brought it all back. So
sorry to hear that.
We bring Sam in at extra commentary because I can't keep talking the entire meeting, but we are going to recap.
We're going over January 8th. We just
quick January 8th recap. No clips on January 8th, but. And then after that, we'll go into January 22nd council meeting.
So right before that, they had like a reorganization. So there was new members on there. Some new committees were assigned. And then there was one person who's been on council for quite some time. I don't know how long, but Dan Hutchison had not resigned, but I guess he had to resign because he won a seat in the LD4.
So Hutchison's been on council since, I believe, 06.
Okay.
He ran with Cindy Rao Hatton back in 06 as a Republican, believe it or not.
Yes.
And then he switched sides to be a Democrat. After, you've heard it several times from Orlando. Oh, first time you met, we were on opposing sides, but then you saw the error of your ways.
Yep.
We've all heard that story.
That's a great joke.
But, yeah, so he's been on in 06, and you cannot hold two elected positions. Right. So he since he won the assembly position, he had to choose between council and assembly.
So because they knew that was coming because the election happened in November, after the reorg, there was just one more meeting where he sat at this whole meeting on January 8th. At the end of it, they then went into, I guess, an executive session. I don't know exactly what that's called for council, where they kind of go back in the chambers and talk about who the other candidates are. Yeah. So the process is, and now Sam, you're probably more familiar with this than anybody in America, but the process in Camden County, anyway, I guess, is the Democrat committee is who.
So you what ends up happening is you express your interest that, hey, I want to be on council to fill the open position for such
Dan
and
Hutchison
such.
for this
or for Dan Hutchison in this case, but Scott Owens, Tracy Trotto, Andrew Stubbs, who's ever missing.
Right.
All right. And then the Democratic committee.
And that's because they were a Democrat they were elected, or as the last election. That's why it goes to the Democrat committee, right?
So if Andrew Stubbs was a Republican,
right, it would go to the
Republican committee. Okay, so it goes to the Democrat committee, and then the Democrat committee either interviews you,
right?
Actually, doesn't either. They do interview you, and they interview whoever else they want, and then they present 3 names to council,
right?
And then council will interview those people. Mm-hmm. And then council will render a decision.
Right.
They took a couple shortcuts this time.
Okay.
This time I put my name in, and there was no interview. I just got the phone call said that I was one of the 3 picked to go. Because
they have interviewed you before, and they've
that's what they
have
said.
Ended up on a news broadcast.
It did, but And when they called me to say that I was one of the 3,
right?
I said, "Well, are you interviewing me?" And they're like, "No, because it's like the questions. It's like you're taking a test for the 17th time."
Right.
So I ended up going to the meeting because I got a phone call from Orlando to say that I was
one of the runners up, right?
No, well, he didn't say I was one of the runners up. He said that I was under, one of the 3.
Or something?
Yeah, under consideration. And one of the 3, and he would appreciate it if I came to the meeting and was able to come to the meeting in case I was picked.
Right.
And then I walked into the meeting, and I knew from the minute I walked in that I wasn't going to be picked because
saw Troxel there. Yep.
Troxel was sitting in the stands
or
in the back. So, and there was nobody else who had put in. So it was I made the joke, hey, I got a 50-50 shot here.
Yeah.
But Troxel was, they went into executive session, private chambers, and then they came out and said that there was a nomination. The way it works from there is somebody nominates somebody, and then someone seconds it, and then there's like, are there any other nominations? There were no other nominations, and Troxel was voted on unanimously.
Not a single one of those people that are up there said, you know what, I wouldn't mind seeing what Sam has to say.
Yeah,
Not
so
a single one. After years of service.
the shortcuts you were talking about, that I thought you were talking about just from the Democrat committee putting your name up to council. But you're saying council also did not question you at all. Did ask no questions. So you had, at that point in time, you had a brand new person on council, Jim Nash, right? And then
A relatively new person, Tara Walters.
and Tara Walters, who both of them were never there for when you had a previous one of your. What did you say it was 4 times you've now gone through this?
Yes, 4
So,
times I've gone through this.
4 times. Neither of those people have been there. So 2 of the votes, maybe they would have picked you, but council didn't even take. They told them ahead of time, you don't want Sam. Sam's not your vote. Troxel's your vote, right?
I can't say that that's what happened.
But no, but I'm saying for taking shortcuts like that. If I were Jim Nash and you literally I didn't get to ask a question of that, or does he automatically already know? Like how?
Well,
I don't know. Explain that one.
I don't know,
How does that?
Yeah. I never actually thought of that. I did catch. I several people caught the moment where Troxel did not really have anything to say because Orlando said, well, I spoke to you earlier today. We know. So I was under the impression, she was told earlier, show up. We're gonna. This is part of the plan, and which is what I initially thought at the end of the year when I thought she didn't really give like
A goodbye.
the greatest
It was
goodbye.
like, thanks for coming out. I'll see you on the 8th.
Yeah,
or
it's been a pleasure up here. But it wasn't it wasn't the going away speech that I think that I would have gave if I was kind of retiring from it. So I kind of had this feeling, wow, she's going to be back. There were 2 people that I thought were going to be council. One was a current school board member, and the other was Troxel that they were going to brought back. And sure enough, man, they're so unbelievably predictable. But that's a really good point. It's a really good point. There are 2 new people on there.
You had brought this up in the last podcast about Jim Nash and having high hopes and everything else.
Yeah.
And I know I met him and talked to him for a while, and he swore up and down he's not going to take their word. He's going to vote his own conscience, and no one's going to tell him what to do. However, literally the very first meeting that he has a chance to. Even him, he could have called you himself out of I don't know. It's literally you did not ask a single question of the candidates that were, or one of the candidates anyway, that were running. So your either mind was already told what to vote, or you'd already made your mind up on something that
you have to seriously ask yourself the question here. All right, if it's between 2 people, Troxel and Sweet, who knows more about what's going on?
I don't know what Troxel is. She's been around a long time. She's one of the ones.
Troxel has been around a long time, in all fairness. Yeah. So she does know. But there's a statement that sticks with me. I believe it was the 3rd time I went, or maybe it was the 2nd time. I forget. They all kind of blend together. But Orlando, I said, I want to say it was the 2nd time. And we went through and we had a really good interview, or at least I thought. Orlando even said, you interviewed very well. Things were looking good, and I took it, with a grain of salt. But so then afterwards, I wasn't nominated at all. So I went up to Orlando after the meeting and I said, I don't understand. I wasn't even nominated. Like there was no vote. You just voted for Tara Walters and she went through and, I wasn't nominated. There was no discussion. And he's like, well, Sam, you are not a good foxhole guy. It was his exact quote to me.
Foxhole guy.
Yeah. What is I? Yeah.
So, you know what a foxhole is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. There's usually 2, 3, 4, 5 people in a foxhole.
In the trenches, yeah.
In the trenches. You're trusting people with your lives in that foxhole. You're trusting that they're going to do their job correctly. It's a war term. A foxhole.
Yeah.
So by him saying that I'm not a good foxhole guy, I take that as, well, I'm the wild card. I'm the ace. I'm not going to roll over and be the yes man. And they want a yes man in the trenches because Troxel will be that good foxhole person and have Orlando's back.
Yeah, that's not what it's about. I mean, it's what it's about for them, but it's not what it.
Exactly. For the public, it's not. You shouldn't be in a foxhole. You should be representing the
And
public.
there's nothing. There's nothing to lose too. You put a Sam Sweet on there. He's powerless, other than he can bring up conversation, and they can squash it, without a doubt. They could squash it. They could silence him. They could.
But
They
him
can
bringing
outvote
it
him.
up,
He can always be the no vote. There's nothing they have to lose other than a little bit of extra transparency by putting Sam on there.
But I mean, that goes to the point, Joe, of like even, during election time when there's yard signs, right? Like that's the cheapest, easiest thing for any non-funded by huge donor campaign kind of thing that you can do. The ordinance for the town is enforced as if it were like, I don't know, like
oh God,
because if there's people invading our town. But yet, after the election's over, you'll see signs up. They're still up. There's still election signs up.
Yeah.
But prior to the election, they'll use every single little advantage that they have to just keep their foot right on your throat and keep you down.
You put
Sam in a position like that, that loosens that hold up. Like it has to be that the foxhole,
The
scenario.
other thing too is, all right. So let's follow this through. I'm on the council now. Now comes capital project time, and I disagree with the capital project. Well, it's not unanimous.
Right. Any calling out of anything is now going to look
all of a sudden,
bad.
it starts with one, because now all of a sudden, well, wait a minute. Let's go see what this guy has to say. Why is he saying no to this? Does he make sense, or is he just totally full of BS?
Yeah.
What's going on? And then all of a sudden, maybe it wakes some people up. Maybe it wakes a certain portion of people up.
Yeah.
And and it's a chink in the armor. And they don't want that chink in the armor. They want to present, as David Mayer has said several times, this is a great place to live, work, and play.
I think it's called a kink.
And
But either way.
what's that?
it's a chink.
I think it's a kink. I think the
It's
other
a
one's a
chink.
racist term, but either way.
Well, that'll show up in a video later.
Man,
But he presents this as this is a great place to live, work, and play.
Yep.
And they do everything in their power to present that. And as well they should, but there's certain times that there are things going on behind the scenes that residents want to know about. And they're not forthcoming with that. And, and that's my problem is...
But that's so you're I understand exactly what you're saying, and there's like this. And I'm not going to say how I know or where I know this from, but they desire a uniform look of like this is what council wants. You know what I mean, or whatever whatever it is that they want, because those opposition things look like, oh, maybe there are questions around why is this coming up, and it's a. We're all in the same front. We're in a foxhole. We're pushing through with this. Taxes have to go up. This project has to move forward. This is being sold. This, all those different things. If there's a other view, it looks bad in their minds to them.
But
or detrimental in a way.
In the same token, though, with that being said, a lot of the stuff that they do, I don't have questions on. I agree with it.
Right.
All right. They just in this meeting, they raised the cap, or they banked the cap, 2.5% above.
Right.
But they've done that every year, and people, new people come in and they're like, "Oh my God, they're raising taxes already." No, they're not. They did that in the year they didn't raise taxes.
Right.
Because since the budget isn't done yet, they have to do this, and it's basically standard practice
Right.
to do that. I don't have a problem with that. I was explained it the first time. I understood it. Okay, I have no problem with it. My problem comes in when you borrow 5 weed whackers for 6 years.
Yeah.
Or you borrow for an ice rink, and you don't
Yeah.
actually buy it for 4 years. So it's things like that,
Yeah.
and it's common sense per se.
So anyway, that's pretty much it for January 8th. That we had a
Well, yeah, too. The other part of it was so they brought Troxel in, and it was just kind of like she's like, oh, I didn't even
shocked.
Yeah, and it was come on, like every bit of this was all planned. You
They're
talked to her
very bad
earlier
actors.
in that day. She didn't run because she didn't run and go out and walk and knock door to door when they did it because they already knew. Look, we'll bring Jim in. We've got her. We'll bring her in that way because you're not gonna. I mean, look, you still can. They could have reelected her. Then they could have brought James Nash in afterwards and said, "Hey, he's our guy." But then there would have been some kind of question like, "Okay, who's this guy that came out of nowhere?" When Sam has made it to the basically the final two.
But I don't think anyone knows who
previous
those are. Like, we don't. Are we ever told those things? I think the only reason that we know is because we know Sam, and Sam.
Well, because
says
we
he
know
made it to
somebody
that
that's been there,
point.
yeah.
I don't know that that's public knowledge.
Actually,
know.
it can be public knowledge if you want to ask.
Oh yeah.
If you could Oprah and say who were the 3 names given to council for
Speaking of which, what do you call that? The newscast thing that had gone out before about your
New Jersey Globe.
New Jersey Globe, where they got hold of that Democrat committee interview with you. I don't know if it was you told me or somebody had said that they also videotaped the council meeting, or not the council meeting. The council did their own interviews on video, right?
yes.
So when that was done, was that at the council or at the municipal building, or was that?
It was in the municipal building, and I was interviewed back in the. If you watch the council meetings, you know the little chambers they go into.
Yeah.
That's where I was interviewed.
Who did that interview?
It was Carolyn Grace, Dan Hutchinson, and Orlando Mercado.
Who ran the camera?
They just kind of set up a camera and said, "This is the camera, and here it is."
So that camera though is public property, right? So that interview should be Oprahable. Not yours, but I'm saying anyone that they interviewed.
Yes.
So we should, in theory, be able to get Tara Walters. We know is the one who beat you in that case. Do we know who the third person was that time?
No.
So we could still find out if there was a third person,
Yes.
right? That's interesting stuff. to think
Yeah,
about.
I thought about Oprah and all that stuff too.
I don't know what you do with it. I'm just
along with because
is that
guess-
I don't know. Is that standard practice for the other, or is that just to disseminate the information?
so there was a part of it that I thought was unethical, and the part of that was they sent both of Sam's interviews to the NJ Globe.
From what you were told by the, yeah.
Well, so I talked to David Wildstein from who's essentially the owner, I guess, of NJ Globe. He's the guy that does all the writing for NJ Globe.
Editor-in-chief or whatever.
Yeah, he's editor in chief. I called him and had a conversation and had an hour-long conversation with him on the stuff that they released on Sam about the first interview that he did. And in that conversation, he said, I have both of his interviews. The first one was the only one that I felt was we needed to write the article on.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, the second one wasn't really anyone's to give. The first one was the Democratic committees to give. They could do that.
Right.
The second one was kind of public property and wasn't really anything that the opposition should be sending to the Globe about. So
Right. So I guess my whole point with that of asking about Tara's though was at that time Sam was running for not commissioner. Was that commissioner? Is that what that position's called?
Yeah.
Camden
He used to be a
County
freeholder, and it was now commissioner. So it's almost as if that were planned to say, this is how we're going to smear Sam. We're going to record this whole, this whole meeting because if they did that with other people, then they should also have. It was if it's either done for everyone or it was done for you specifically. I guess is my point of it.
Yeah.
It was with intention to smear his name versus this is how we're just disseminating what Sam's interview was like to
Yeah,
other
they
council
pretty
members.
much
you know
had
what I
a
mean?
plan, I guess, going into that one.
Right.
That's what they're going to use it
It's
for.
just shady tactics.
It
whatever.
was. It was a really, really shady thing.
Yeah.
That everybody kind of looked
Wait a minute,
past.
you're shocked by this?
No, I'm not sure.
I mean,
I'm
politics and they do shady stuff. Really?
It's just
Wow.
when you can bring it up, bring it to light. You know, it's just one of those
Oh, I
things.
know.
like-
I understand. It's
But why? I mean, why? You didn't need to do it. Look, you ran against a guy who I think is ultimately pretty scummy also. And
also meaning Sam is coming and
no.
you walked that one.
The rest, I mean, look, there's
I got you.
but there's a lot of scummy people in the machine. But I think Capelli is another one of those guys. And you were running for Capelli was one of the guys you were running against. And from what I know about that guy, I don't like that guy anyway. But he's got a huge backing. So it wasn't
Because he's good in the trenches, like Sam said.
yeah, he's
Got
good in
your
the trench.
back.
He's
he's
good
a
in
foxhole man.
Yeah,
he's
foxhole,
a good Norcross foxhole man. And look, I don't think that you or Kate had a chance against them because of the backing that machine had.
Right.
So they didn't need to go to that level.
But they still
to
do
do
because
that.
they need to take
But
every
what I think
single
that they're
advantage.
doing.
Well, it's not an advantage, okay, that they take. They come after you that way to prevent somebody else from running.
True.
Okay,
True.
because
Yes.
there's people watching who will go, "Oh my God, look what they did to Sam! Look at what they did. They took his memes,
Right.
all right, which are memes.
Right.
That's the best they've got against me is
Right.
memes,
Right.
8th grade boy humor, and they take that and they splatter it all over the web. They put a Sweet the Creep on a website, and so people are looking at this and going, "Oh my God, look what they're doing to him."
Yeah.
And then, oh my God, what are they going to find on me?
Right. People are
You know,
probably
and it's
seeing that, saying, "Oh my God, I can't do it. I
yeah,
can't run."
I don't want to.
humor
I don't
I
want to
take
do that.
apart.
I don't want my past coming up. And I'm not saying that there's people out there with bad past, but then they're like, well, what are they going to find? And if they don't find anything, then they're going to go, find something or make something up or
Right.
twist the truth.
Yeah,
You know,
they made stuff up about me during the game when I ran. They literally was a flyer that was mailed to teachers that had a quote from someone else and a picture of someone else. And like, don't vote for Gibbons.
Yeah.
Wait, so someone else completely has nothing to do with me said something and that has nothing to do with me? So you have nothing on me, but you
That's it.
literally
No.
just made something
Well,
up.
I've had public workers stop me, because I'm on a soccer field, baseball field. I'm walking, in Target, and they
Yeah.
stopped me and they said when I was running, and they'd go, "Are you really going to lay off all of Public Works?"
Oh yeah, they lie.
And I was like, "Why would I lay off Public Works?" Well, that's what they're going to say. They're saying you're going to cut the budget and lay off all of Public Works and privatize it.
Right.
I'm like, but if I privatize it, that's going to be more expensive than just keeping and they lie. And,
Well, yeah.
and that's why they did what they did with the smear campaign,
Yeah.
is to prevent people who might want to run or have any inclination of running to think twice about it.
Yeah, it was to do that, and then it was also to discredit you for anything future. And then I do remember too. I remember people saying, "Well, we better go out and use our parks right now because if Sam Sweet and his team get elected, they're
Yeah,
not going to
they're
even
gonna take
exist
away the
anymore."
parks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So that was it for the January 8th meeting.
Well, so Dan also, that was his last night, and he thanked people for, being on the council with them. And the one thing that I found that he was interesting that he said at the end was he can't believe how much Orlando recollects about everything. He knows everything in the town. But I feel like it's funny because I feel like I accuse people of selective memory. They only remember things when it's convenient for them. When you ask a question, they're like, I'm sorry, I'm going to get back to you on that. How is it that we always have to get back to us on stuff? But then the one thing that, he mentions about someone is their memory. Their memory of how
He's got all their dirt. He knows where the bodies are buried.
But, so
That
Dan
is an
was
exact
on-
quote from Orlando.
That is That's
said-
an exact quote that I have clipped here.
Yes, it is an exact quote. He knows where the bodies are buried. So we're not misquoting him, and we can fact check that.
Yeah.
I know where the bodies are
I've
buried.
got the clip.
All right, so we're going to move on from January 8th and into the most recent one, which we actually have clips for, folks. Not that, I don't know if people care about those or not, but it's the receipts, right? We're not just making stuff up. So, where do we start here?
We're gonna raise the bank cap.
Which Sam was just talking about that there. That's
Yeah.
a normal thing to do, right? We had egos sent in by somebody asking about snow plowing, which turned out to be a private road or a easement, so the town was not responsible
off
for
of
it.
Kearsley Road. Yeah, I actually Google mapped that one. It's kind of like it's off of Kearsley Road, and it winds up just being. It's like its own little street, but it's
Yeah,
like
that's what they were
basically
saying.
a driveway.
Basically, sorry, that's not our responsibility.
Kind of big houses on on like a little private.
But here's my question for that, and I'm not trying to pile on council with this, but so the gentleman is asking, how come the snowplows missed us? Was he not made aware when he moved in by, either the town or the realtors?
Probably
or
not.
Like, hey,
But
listen,
is that council's fault? Or their
no, that's what I'm
responsibility?
saying. It's not council's fault,
Right.
But like he's coming out. Oh, can we get something done? And that's what I'm going at. Like, it's not council's fault that he lives on a private easement and needs to get his own snowplows.
Right.
So I'm not going to beat council up on something like that,
Right.
Because it's not. They should be informed. What I will maybe is council or somebody in the mayor's office should contact those people on the street and say, hey, by the way, you have to do this, so that they don't have the question of how come my snowplow isn't, my road's not snowplowed when everybody else's is.
Yeah. Well, should they proactively go find every one of those scenarios and reach out to them?
I
Probably
don't know.
not.
I think if
But
you
the
get a
person
private,
asked, and they answered the question.
if it's a
So,
private easement, you're pretty much in charge of even the paving of it.
yeah.
So they were all made aware of this at settlement on their homes.
Not necessarily. It could have been something in writing, and they just didn't read it. I mean, when when you settle on a property, you got stacks of paper, and you're just like, okay, sign here, sign here, sign here.
Yeah, I mean, there's
And you never looked at it,
There's plenty of stuff that I signed for here because I'm in an HOA.
You
but-
don't even know what it says, right?
I mean, well, I kind of knew going into it. There's an HOA. There's certain things that I'm paying for
Yeah.
that they're going to cover, but I would imagine if they have a private easement here, they're either paying into something,
Yeah.
or there's the expectation of when something needs to be done here, this has to be paid for. If there's 3 houses in this private easement, I would imagine that there's some kind of agreement there that says these 3 houses are going to cover the cost of this thing. Maybe it's some kind of HOA. I don't know. But
Either way.
yeah, not a township problem there on that one.
Yeah, so the next question that was emailed into council for review was Peter Heinball from Morningstar Court, asking about a topic that we had mentioned a little bit earlier in another podcast about the town going after specific properties to try to reassess them at a higher rate. So the town's supposed to be reassessed every roughly, 10 years or so, Sam? Like, it's around that. And we're probably about 13 or 14 years since that's happened. But the town decided to go after a certain specific properties. Mind you, we have a tax assessor, who that's, by definition of their title, right, is
Right.
their job.
Yes.
However, we paid a company called Blau and Blau to go after.
Well, I wouldn't say we pay them because it wasn't
Right.
a contract. It was they got a percentage of what they ended up
in
raising the
getting an
taxes
increase.
by.
Right.
The increase. So from that
So Blau
perspective,
and Blau reassesses the property to say, okay, it's on the books for $4 million. It's really worth $7 million. Now the tax increase comes on that $3 million increase equals this amount of money, and that's what Blau and Blau gets paid, is that commission on that increase, right?
yes, and but in that scenario, if you're getting 30%, then you're going to want to you're going to be as aggressive as possible,
Right.
with that. And I don't know if there was any back and forth where Blau and Blau comes in and says, okay, well, we're going to make it $10 million, and the tax assessor goes, no, we can't make it 10, let's make it 8.
Right.
Because if you're getting paid on a percentage, you're going to want that higher amount to go up.
Right.
And
and then to take it a step further, Sam, too, is I don't know if you saw, but Pete had sent in an Oprah request asking for the list of the properties and the assessments and all that stuff from Blau and Blau, and it was literally a 3-year period of time where Blau and Blau got paid a commission on the increase. So if the increase in 2021, I guess it was on $3 million, I got $300,000 or whatever the case was. In 2022, they also got that, and then in 2023, they also got that. So is it in perpetuity that they're getting this increase in that, or is it one, like, where's the line drawn of what's an increase? If you increased it once, it's like our property taxes. To Ray Polidoro's point of you raise them to here to here to here. Okay, you didn't increase it, but we're already over. We're out of the scene of the.
But what I think is the more disturbing of the whole issue is that Pete's questions weren't answered. He sent them in as an eGov, and they came back with, we need time to research it.
Well, yeah, excuse me. Yeah, the clip that we'll play is that, but before this whole questioning here, he had sent that eGov in and got this information, and then which led to this questioning of how those properties were identified as the ones needing to be reassessed. And the tax assessor couldn't get an answer back from Blau. Wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that the tax assessor, who gets paid to do the tax assessment, did not know the answer to literally, like, why did you target these specific properties around that? Which, another one that's interesting about that, too, if you look at what the properties that they identified, what is it called? The Villages of Gloucester redevelopment area, or the redevelopment plan that they have for... Is that Blackwood West redevelopment plan? Mm-hmm. Yeah, Blackwood West. All those properties that were the 16 properties that the Petrongalos owned on the Black Horse Pike. And then there's a apartment complex. And then the rest of the Petrongalo properties that go all down Hickstown, or not Hickstown, Davistown Road, or what's that road over there? Lakeland? Lakeland Road?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That particular apartment complex was targeted and already had a tax lien against it, and now they raise the taxes ridiculous. Are they trying to push that person out intentionally, maybe, and default on it because now they can't even pay the property taxes on?
Which person's that?
I'd have to show you on Google Maps to show you, but it's right where, if you were at the corner where Sam's Bar and Grill is, and across the street is the not the gas station, the car wash. And then across was the old gas station that they knocked down and where the Lidl's supposed to go. Behind the Lidl, there's apartment complexes there. Well, Petrongalos own that from that corner all the way down to the next street, except for like maybe one property in the middle there. But then if you go down the street down Lakeland the other way, the AP Construction building that property is directly right behind it. So the only thing stopping the connection of their properties on Lakeland Road up to the Black Horse Pike, and then the Black Horse Pike all the way down the other way, is that apartment complex. And that was one of the ones that was targeted for the increase. And they already had a tax lien against. Interesting stuff. But anyway, so that question was asked, and the tax assessor has no clue, has no idea, couldn't answer it. Clip 9, I guess we'll play here, right?
Yes.
Please fully explain the process for GT's reverse tax appeals. Please fully explain the work that consultant Blau and Blau does to execute GT's reverse tax appeals. How are the apartment complex properties chosen for reverse tax appeal? Were the Gloucester outlet property parcels considered and analyzed for reverse tax appeal? The tax assessor, Mr. Grangino, was unable to contact the representatives from Blau and Blau to discuss responses to these questions. Response will be provided to Mr. Heimbaugh at the next regularly scheduled council meeting.
The mic wasn't on. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but they have no idea.
No clue. And
but here's the thing that's disturbing about that. He didn't get an answer from Blau and Blau.
He should have given Blau and Blau.
Why didn't he have the answer to begin with?
Right.
Or why didn't he say, well, I decided to have these assessed because of A, B, and C? Because isn't that what the tax assessor's job is?
Exactly the point.
These houses have not been assessed in 20 years. Who knows? I mean, I'm making that up.
Yeah.
But we need to assess those. So that's what we did. We went through, and these apartment complexes haven't been these 4 apartment complexes or whatever they are
Right.
haven't been reassessed in 20 years. We skipped them the last time we reassessed, so now we're doing this.
Yeah.
All right, and Blau and Blau's doing it. Okay, but why is our tax assessor not involved in this process?
That's the job of. I mean, I don't know. Let's look up what a tax assessor does. What is? They're supposed to do that, right? That's what they're licensed to do that
But,
too.
but
I
again,
believe?
this also goes back to certain issues that I've looked at contracts where a report's supposed to be done, and Gloucester Township has paid a company $50,000 for a report for a finding, a study, a traffic study, or something.
Yeah.
And then I asked for the report, and the report's never been done.
Right.
Well,
What do we pay for?
Well, is there an email? No, we had a conversation. Wait a minute. You paid $50,000 for a study. Where's the study?
Right.
There's no study. So this is, again, an example. We're paying Blau and Blau, but how does our tax assessor not know what the answers are at the top of his head?
Right.
And at what point did he not hear back from Blau and Blau?
Yeah.
Like,
So, our tax assessor.
Apparently knows nothing about tax.
Well, our
assessing
tax
taxes.
assessor has a family history with other prominent families in our township, and that is likely how that position came to be.
Okay.
So that person doesn't really need to know a whole lot about the job.
it's a really nice way of saying what you really don't want to say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there was a great joke I thought that Pete had made after saying that he's looked into tax, and apparently no one else in the town knows anything about tax, even our tax assessor. So Pete is the third most knowledgeable person apparently in Gloucester Township about reassessing taxes, because Blau, the other Blau, and then Pete Eyeball. So he's that was a great joke he had. Dude. Apparently, I'm the third most knowledgeable person about reverse tax. But yeah, so then let's see what happened after that one. There, we had Giselle Brown. Do you guys remember Giselle Brown?
I remember Giselle Brown really offended by flyers on
Yeah.
her car.
Yep.
I believe these were these were anti Mercado
Yeah, I think it was
flyers.
anti-Mercado. Something that went out.
on there. I don't know. I had nothing to do with these. These were promoting our campaign, but they were done through
Yeah, they were done by somebody else or
they
something.
were done
right?
through a third party. They were handed out and put on cars, and
Giselle Brown
did not feel safe.
at a
a council
police swearing-in ceremony where there was more guns on that property,
There were so many guns.
more law enforcement than you can imagine, and Giselle had a problem with it. But I don't know what it is. He resurfaced.
Probably can't.
Giselle?
But Giselle, with a different email address. They mentioned to say.
Yeah,
Giselle had a new
they
email
looked into
address.
that, but they didn't look into the reverse tax
Yes.
assessment thing. That they weren't able to do.
Well,
It was a pretty long clip, but
let's be honest with that before you play that clip. Okay, and I think our readers will, or our viewers will notice the sarcasm
yeah,
in the email that Orlando read, and even Orlando knows the sarcasm.
yeah,
So this goes back to, a kink in the armor,
yeah,
where they don't want anybody criticizing them, so they're going to look into that
Yeah.
as opposed to
oh
looking
yeah.
into
That's the important thing to look into.
because that makes them look bad.
Yep.
Where the Blau and Blau thing is, it doesn't make them look bad. We'll get the answer to you, and we'll answer, and we might not get the answer to you, in a timely fashion, and maybe you'll even forget about it.
Yep.
And I'll go into more of that
Yeah.
after this clip.
I think what probably stood out the most to President Mercado was that Giselle Brown's email address went from Mercado to something else. So, yeah.
Well, when you know who the one is that sent in the last Giselle Brown, and then Giselle Brown sends in another one, I guess you could kind of question it.
If you're the original
When
sender
you are Giselle Brown,
when you are Giselle Brown,
you
and all
know
of a sudden
the other
you're like,
one's not.
wait a minute, that person whose name I was using actually just sent an email in?
What?
Oh no.
Oh, actually, yeah, because it was pointed out by Patrick Duff that
Yeah, there's
the
no
entire
Giselle Brown.
state of New Jersey does not have someone named Giselle Brown spelled the way that you have it spelled.
Yes. So,
All right, so here's Giselle Brown's email to council and him reading.
I
it
was
here.
excited, by the way, when I saw another Giselle Brown, because I was like, oh, this is going to be so podcast clippable. And then I started listening to it and going, this is not how I thought this was going to go.
Here we go.
And our last EGov is from Giselle Brown. I asked the clerk for an address. There was no address. One thing I did notice that the email addresses are different. So we'll take this EGov. I'll read it as is. Council, the changes you made regarding our ability to ask questions and voice our concerns without the tedious inconvenience of prior notification was awe-inspiring. Who needs transparency and advance notice anyway? Your spontaneous decision-making at the workshop meeting was nothing short of visionary. The fact that the topic was on the agenda and the people had no chance for input proves how dedicated you all are. Your ingenious idea of deducting time from the 5 minutes allotted to people during the public portion of the meeting for addressing their email concerns deserves a standing ovation. Truly, who wouldn't want to limit the time people have to express their concerns and engage with their local government? I want to express my gratitude for the meticulous attention to detail, removing our ability to have any input in the discussion. Your foresight in limiting the community's involvement in decisions that directly impact them is truly commendable. Your intentions are very clear to those who watch from home. Thank you, Mr. Mercado, for always looking out for us. Your leadership is an inspiration to all of us. I feel secure knowing you always put your feelings aside and do what is right. Gloucester Township citizen, signed. Anyone who could read that or hear that is dripping with sarcasm.
That it was when I heard it. I was like, oh my god.
When I heard the name, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait to see what else Giselle found offensive.
Yeah.
And then I'm listening and I'm going, this is different.
Yeah, this
is very different than what I thought before. And then as it went on, I'm going, oh, I don't think this is the same person.
Yeah.
But if it is, maybe they watch a podcast now.
Yeah, right.
So it was a very different turn, I thought, on that particular person's name.
Yeah. So the whole email that Giselle sent in was, I guess somebody was, I don't want to say retaliating, but like just frustrated with how council is now trying. So there's a system in place, that eGov, which you guys have heard us talk about multiple times about what that is, about where you're able to send in an email, council reads it, blah, blah, blah. Not Blau, Blau, Blau. That's a whole other company. But they are now going to take that away to a degree and say, if you're sending in an eGov and you show up, you can't do both. You can't do it. You can't ask your government, questions like that. So the person, whoever Giselle was sent that email in, was referring to council in the January 8th meeting, saying that they're going to be taking that away. And then he had the clerk do run a report of the total number of eGov questions that were sent in to December, whatever the date was, 11th or 12th, 27th or whatever. And then do who asked questions, right? And so it came back that 61 people or 61 eGovs total from 29 people. 4 people had 48% of those eGovs, and they attend council meetings on a regular basis. That ticked them off to no degree. I guess there is a limit to how much you can question your government.
It's not supposed to be.
Well,
so according to the Sunshine Laws, one, you can talk about anything that is a concern to the resident, as long as it's a concern to the resident. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to agree with it. I mean, I'll use Shaughnessy Smithson. All right, she goes up there and she talks about her concerns for her.
Right.
and concerns for the township,
And she has every right to do that.
and every right to do that. And what they say, the Sunshine Laws is anybody can talk about anything that concerns them. You can limit the time as long as, and that's where the gray area is.
Right.
They don't come back and say, well, you can limit the time to 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. It's limit the time so that people can get their questions answered. All right, and so they limit those times. With the eGovs, I was not one of the 4, by the way, just for the record. As
yeah,
Orlando
he made that clear. You did not make it.
He was pulling for me, but I was
Yeah.
not one of the 4.
Yeah.
And I know, but I told him I've sent in eGov questions because sometimes I'm on a baseball field and I know I'm not going to
Yeah.
make the game. I'm not going to make the council meeting because I'm coaching my son and his
Right.
team. So I'll send an eGov question, and then the game gets rained out, and then I show up to the council meeting because
Right.
it's there. And then,
Well,
it's not
and-
my intention to do that, but
Not to mention, on almost any question that's asked. So say you send a question, or you go up there and ask a question. What is it that they tell you to do? Well, how many times has Carter said, if you'd emailed me ahead of time, I would have had the answer for you? Right?
But with the eGov
But-
questions, here's the problem is the eGov questions. If I send an eGov question in and it's a detailed question, like, hey, let's use budgets, and I have questions on lines, or pages 7 through 46, and here's
Right.
my questions. They have to read those questions and answer those questions.
Right.
All right. If they don't answer those questions, then it looks like they're not answering those questions. I know that sounds,
Right.
redundant, but if I go to the meeting and ask those questions, then they can be, Mr. Hutchinson can do a back and forth. Mr. Cardis can do a back and forth and then answer the questions. Mr. Carlimer can start quoting legalese, and then it takes up my 5 minutes, and then by the time my 5 minutes, my answers,
Right.
my
You got
questions
nothing.
were not answered. So the eGov questions have to be answered, and and then if we're also there, then it does lengthen the meeting. And my opinion is, I think they want the meeting shortened as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree that that's what they want, is it shortened. But at the same time, it's your government that they are literally funded by all of our taxpayer dollars. I understand they're taxpayers as well, but
Yeah.
what is more important, for us to be able to answer questions of our government, or for them to get home on time?
Well, it's a great place
You
to
know.
live, work, and play, and we're not foxhole guys.
Oh, true.
So so it's more important to get home. And certain Mondays, there's playoff football. There was the NFL, the NCAA championship game on a Monday.
yeah.
So sometimes it's more important to get home. And if you don't want to answer the questions,
Yeah.
then you limit them.
I see both sides of this. Now this is going to be, so I see. Look, there are folks that go to council meetings every single council meeting, and sometimes they have really long questions that require really really detailed answers. I agree that those things should be sent in ahead of time.
Yeah.
Because I don't expect council or Cardis to have every single answer on the spot.
100%. Yeah.
So I think that it is. I think it's necessary for those emails to be sent in. I mean, if Pete, you, Denise, are in the crowd and you send that question in ahead of time, it gives them the advantage of being able to do the research and answer it there. I think that's a good thing.
I don't know the advantage, it's the ability to do it.
Well, yeah, I mean, it
know what you're saying,
it makes
okay.
them look better because they can
But if I-
answer it on the spot.
If I can interject with that, if it's the second public portion, I agree with that. Email the questions in because
Yeah, if it's on the agenda, you should be prepared.
We can talk about anything. I can bring up, hey, I want to paint the stop signs green. Is there an ordinance that stop signs want to be painted green? And I could talk about that. And look, they're doing that in Oklahoma. They're painting their stop signs green now. Can we do that? And he's not going to know the answer to that question. Or I could say, hey, 2 years ago we borrowed $7.6 million. Like he's just not going to know. But if it's on the agenda, and he does this all the time, and
Right.
this is
Oh, of course.
on the agenda, I will ask a question specific to the agenda,
And I'll have to get back to you.
and I'll have to get back to you. How do you not know what's on the
yeah,
agenda?
I agree 100%. That I agree both with you and with you on that, because agenda drives me insane when it's on the agenda and you don't know the answer. How did you not? You should know any answer that's going to be asked about that if it's on the agenda.
Yeah, but
For the most part. I mean, is it by chance that every single time you don't know the one question that was going to be asked? You know what I mean? Like, was it that tricking of a question?
And the interesting thing also about the eGov, and I brought this up at the meeting. I don't know if you have a clip of it, but if I'm not able to make a meeting, the eGov is the second portion of a public portion.
You've brought this up multiple times.
Okay,
About
so if
timing
I have
of
a
it.
question on the agenda and I don't make the meeting and I send an eGov question in, I could have the best point in the world and say, hey, this is totally illegal. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And council won't read the eGov question based on the agenda. And I brought it up, as you said, Pete or Keith, several times. And I get, well, we'll look into that.
Yeah.
And every time it's not looked into, and sometimes I have a question on the agenda that I send in, and then it gets read afterwards.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, maybe that would change someone's vote. I mean, maybe it's a
wishful
little
thinking,
sarcastic.
but
Yeah, that part too is definitely that's definitely a thing. But at the same time, we also got to a certain point where, look, council did some bad things, and they stepped on some people's rights. The other opportunities, they politicized themselves by sending letters to people, and that generated a lot of eGov traffic. So we had residents that were basically sending in long speeches during eGov to get their point across. And I think that's what ultimately turned off council to where they said, look, we're going to have to limit these things. You know, these people that are showing up for meetings are also, not only are they going up and they're spending 5 minutes giving speeches on how their rights are squashed, but they're also sending in eGovs, long eGovs that are read, and council was reading them to also, I don't want to say bash council, because they rightfully had good arguments against council, but it was kind of like,
no, I know what you're saying.
I mean, I got to the point where, I don't know. There's a certain point where it's like I saw somebody else. There's a Democrat that's always is a progressive Democrat Sam has run with before, and she's calling out Norcross, saying you need to stand up against phantom candidates and stop doing this. And I'm like,
You're asking a criminal to...
You're asking a criminal to stop doing crime? Like, you're asking... Like, there's no point in emailing in and then going up to council and saying, bad guys, please stop being bad guys. Look, they just are what they are. That's what you have to deal with. You have to deal with that until their term is up, and then you have to get rid of them. And if folks aren't going to get rid of them, I'm sorry, but that's what you're stuck with. That's what you're stuck with unless other people wake up.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you're not wrong.
Going up
No,
there.
you're not wrong. But I will say this. You know, if I hear one more time that other towns don't have eGov questions, we do, but now you're limiting it. And if I hear, what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to sit here and take the lashing you're giving us, or the bashing, or you know, you're telling me we're doing a bad job? Well, yes, that's as my elected official. And I say this all the time. They are my elected officials. Mm-hmm. Whether I voted for them or not, they are my elected officials. They represent me.
Yeah.
So I should be able to go to them and say, I have a problem with this, and here's why. And they could either say, you're totally wrong, Mr. Sweet, and here's why. Or, yeah, we'll take it under advisement. We're not going to do that. But that's not what they do. They come out and they make you feel, you know, this small. You're doing something wrong. Carolyn Grace went off on a you know, a whole thing. It's the most she's ever spoken at a council meeting on how all that she does behind the scenes that we're not aware of.
Yeah.
And I never once said that council doesn't do good things. I see council members out all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same token, when we come up there and I'm asking a question and I'm questioning my council, I should be able to do that without fear of retribution, and that's or fear of censorship. And we don't have that because, you know, we have 5 minutes. They came up with the.
Yeah.
I know, Joe, you were there. The one time the capital budgets that I sat there stood up there for an hour and 15 minutes, going over the capital budgets with the different things that I found. And then the next meeting they came up with a 5-minute rule. Now it's still unlimited time, but you only have 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did that with the workshop meeting too. They rearranged how, because there used to not be a limit of time for the public, and the time that it happened in the meeting was changed, as well, because there was a specific meeting that, I guess, I don't know, a bunch of people went there with agendas of things to talk about, and the next time it was like, oh no, we changed that all up so that you cannot do what you just did last time. And there was some reason behind it, because they didn't actually get to what they needed to go do, so I can see that. But at the same time, those were the rules, so that you followed those rules, and I don't know.
The planning board for years did not have a public portion
Yeah,
session.
Denise Coyne had to bring it to their attention and say, you're supposed, you have to have this. And they're like, no, we don't. Like,
no, here it is.
Here it is,
Here's
right in
the
black
law.
and white.
Yeah.
Here's the law.
And I'm sure there's been other scenarios of this.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's move on. We had we don't have a clip about it, but there was a lot of money being spent in La Cascada. They redid a lot of their paving of their roads, and
Well, they didn't.
no, they did their own, but the main road, which is the township road, has
Yeah.
not been redone. And
Did
that-
we find out that it was a township road?
I don't know that they knew it
Okay.
or not. I think that they said that they did know. I don't know. But Orlando did remind them that during National Night Out, they came by during their campaigning night out, whatever they call that thing. And then there was a memory of Tom Cardis, I thought, happened after that I found pretty astonishing. That without being prompted through an email ahead of time, he knew the answer to a question when it didn't come from someone that they view as against them.
Yeah.
So that was in clip 12. Let's play that one.
Looks gorgeous out on Kelly Driver. It looks gorgeous out on Blackwood Clemson Road. Then you come in and you're like, what? Anyway, I don't want to bore you all. You got my message. Thank you very much.
Before you leave, can I ask you, well, I just wanted to comment.
Yes, sir.
We were all there during National Night Out.
Yes.
We saw the vast improvements that you made, so thank
Yes.
you for
We
championing
worked
it.
hard.
And your friend has come with you to the meeting, so all of you guys for all the work that you've done there. That road, I don't know off the top of my head, and if that road is a road that's dedicated to the township, or is it the HOA's road?
No, it's the township's road.
I do recall, remember when we had the cave-in
Yeah.
collapse? That was part of that road, I believe. So I don't think at the time it was our responsibility, but we did go in and make the repairs that were necessary. Otherwise, they would have lost the entire road.
Okay.
So that's my recollection, but we needed.
So pretty amazing that he remembered a collapse or something with that road. He knew about it. It wasn't emailed ahead of time, so selective memory.
He's
lot of times.
he's good when he needs to be.
Yeah. So
Other
after
times
that,
he's just hanging around.
yeah.
I will disagree with that statement.
What?
That Cardis is good when he needs to be, and that other than that, he's just hanging around. Cardis is very good at his job.
Oh yeah, he's excellent.
He's excellent at his job. He's almost too good at his job because he makes it look like he's not good at his job. But every other year, the budget is balanced, and every other year after that, taxes are raised, and he has the answers to that. So I won't say he's just sitting around.
Anyway, after that, so Sam, you got up there and you were next asking about the architect plans for Ariel Little League that was promised to be sent to you a few weeks back, months ago or so, and they never got.
Middle of, I think it was like December 8th meeting.
Yeah.
I asked about, the township has borrowed money for an indoor facility that was supposed to go with Ariel Little League.
Already borrowed.
Already borrowed $100,000. I believe it was $100,000 in 22 and $75,000 in 23. They went out for bid, and the bids came back at 500,000, 400,000, well above the 175,000. So the project has been put on hold. So I had asked back in December for the plans, and I was told that the plans were by Nancy Power that the plans couldn't be PDF'd due to the fact that it was too big. They didn't have a PDF scanner for the an 8.5 by 14. So at the next council meeting, I
Any
asked.
architect that did them could have emailed the plan.
So I
but
asked.
whatever.
So I asked if the architect could email the plans, if I could get a copy of it. Orlando said that he would email our president. Here we are, January 22nd. We had not gotten the plans.
Right.
And then Orlando said, well,
They
there
said
are
that
no
they don't
plans.
exist. The
Yeah,
plans
the
don't
plans
exist.
don't exist. And
So
then,
here, let's play the clip and listen here.
Orlando, a couple meetings back, you said you would forward the architect plans for the indoor facility for Ariel to Mr. DeVecchio.
Yes, we don't have them.
What do you mean we don't have them?
Scars, when that request was said, he said we don't have them. That's for Ariel's batting cage.
What happened was we went out for bid. on the
Okay,
batting
yes,
cages,
but-
and we had a design for.
No one
at the
asked what
time.
happened.
For that bid, the low bid came in at 305,000. At that point, we stopped. There was some communication with members of the league about replacing the answer system in the building, which we are proceeding with now, which I believe is at a cost of approximately $42,000. I believe that right now we're looking at it in terms of relocating an indoor facility, a larger indoor facility that all the leagues will be able to use. That's not to say we're not gonna help out with what they have out there right now. But those plans are public plans, they were advertised.
I understand, but we don't have a copy of those public plans. You guys apparently,
I can get you a copy of those.
all right, if you could.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
So yeah, so somehow they had them after you were just told they don't exist.
Somebody's got them.
Yeah.
And just to follow up, Mr. Cardis did follow through on his promise to email them.
He did email.
So he did
Okay.
email the plans over. So the plans did exist.
Right.
And those are the plans that went out for bid. And I look, totally understand if we've allotted 175,000 and now bids are coming back at 500,000.
Right.
Well, obviously
but that wasn't the
that's
point.
gonna-
That wasn't what you asked. You asked where are the plans that you told me you were going to get us, and then 1 minute you're told they don't exist, and then a minute later you're told I'll email them to you, and you got them.
Yes.
But it's like, why do you have to follow back up that many times? That many, what was it? 4 meetings in between? Having to get an
4
actual
meetings.
answer?
I did text Orlando several times and said, "Hey, just following up. Can you email those plans?" I actually emailed Orlando as well, and
Yeah.
checked with my president, Mr. DeVecchio, and saying, "Hey, did you get the plans yet?" And the answer was always the same. Nope, not yet.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go into this here clip 14, and I guess talk about that after.
To it. I looked at how eGov is being utilized, to be frank with you, because I think that it's being abused. Not you, but there's some.
I thought this was a
folks that
different
believe
clip. I
are
thought this was the
abusing
boiler
what it
one.
was intended for.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but that was the same. I thought that was the clip with the boiler, but
Rookie
there was
stuff going on here.
Huh?
New Year's jitters.
Yeah, I don't know what the heck. Anyway, there was a public works boiler catastrophe at some point in time where we had borrowed money for.
Man. We not only so we borrowed money for it
We paid an
years
engineer
ago,
to tell us where to put it.
and then we also paid $40,000 for an engineer to go. I think if you take it out of that spot where it's in right now and put it back in that spot where it's in right now, that's probably a good spot. We paid $40,000 for somebody to say that, and then what does this thing cost total? $600,000.
$605,000.
$605,000.
It was
And
spec'd out to be only 300 or something, though, wasn't it? The first time.
So in 2021, they ended up borrowing $355,000, and it's on the capital project budget. That's in 2021 to replace this boiler. The boiler came in at 605 in 2024 now. So my question was, again, why are we borrowing for a boiler and not utilizing it in 2021?
3 years later.
All right, so
Yeah.
that's 3 years worth of interest. And, in the grand scheme of things, as Mr. Hutchinson would say, it's not a lot of money. Well,
Well, you got a couple of those, and they add up. You know.
Well, 355,000 in the bonds. You figure, or the interest rates there because they're not bonded yet. But your interest rate's probably 3-4%, and then so let's just say it's an average of 5% because interest rates are now creeping back up. So if you're saying an average of 5%, that's $17,000 a year for 3 years. It's $51,000.
Yeah.
There's 51,000 homes in Gloucester Township, so it's only cost $1 a home, as Mr. Hutchinson would say.
Yeah. That's all.
Yeah,
But
it's
if-
still.
but if you do that-
$51,000 it's $51,000 from me changes my finances for many years.
But the thing is, if they did it for this one, what have they done for other ones as well?
Right.
So have they over borrowed or early borrowed, as I like to call it,
Yeah.
for projects and spending $51,000? Did they do it now on 10 projects? Well, 10 projects now is
That's a $500,000.
$510,000.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what point? So I asked, Mr. Cars where the extra money was coming from. He did email me that information, and he said that it was 355 was on the capital projects from 21, and then the other 250 to equal this, the 605 is coming from fuel tanks that they budgeted 650,000 for, that they ended up getting through the state for 400,000.
Okay, that's a good thing.
So it's a good thing from that perspective that, all right, they saved 250 on the fuel tanks that they borrowed in 23. All right, they had this extra 250 sitting around, so now they're taking the 250 because they under budgeted for the boiler, and they're taking the 250 right to the boiler, and 355 equals the 605.
Yeah.
So in essence, we should not see boilers on our capital projects, borrowing for this year,
No.
unless
We'll
of course
see.
there's one at the MUA.
Yeah. What was
That's
our next?
that's an expensive boiler.
Yeah. Well,
That should heat between my house and your house. Every house between my house and your house.
yeah.
What do you got?
At this point in time, the boss shows up.
Wait, before the boss shows up, Tom's just hanging around.
Oh,
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
Just hanging around. I got it fixed. We got some New Year's bugs. We got it fixed. But yes,
Oh man, fix it on the fly there.
the boss of the council meeting shows up, and
Go ahead, you gotta hit it. This is great.
we've got the boss showing up for council meetings.
But the fire departments have the mapping program.
Oh my god, that's great.
The boss shows up, and
Yeah, she's got some problems she came with, but
she was definitely not smoking pot before this meeting. I'll tell you what.
no.
That is not a lady that likes anything that has anything to do with dispensaries.
No.
That is her main focus in life right now, is fighting dispensaries.
I mean, I think that there's personal thing that happened probably in her life from what I heard, which so I understand it, but she is definitely comes in with authority. Like, somebody might say like, "Oh yeah, that's not my understanding of what they, no, that's my understanding." And her understanding
Yeah.
trumps your understanding no matter what. If she's right, wrong, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of strong opinions there.
I need to skip to 17 on this, or yeah, because I think it's a little out of order.
Let's
but-
go. Let's go to let's go right to that.
All right, let's go.
My understanding is that opened as a recreational facility.
No,
from
it
the
opened up
get-go.
as a medical marijuana.
That's not to my knowledge.
That's to
but-
my knowledge.
I agree with you.
Well, actually, it opened up as medical, because I've been following it since the first day it opened. I drive into that development every day. So it opened up as medical marijuana. And the guy who owns it is the guy who owns the gym. And he was actually in federal prison for 30 years, so you should look at the person who owns it.
Man.
So this would be the fitness place over by Skeeters.
She is right
Giant
there
Fitness.
talking about the old Friendlies on Blackwood Clementon Road.
Oh, I thought she was talking about the Giant Fitness.
I think what her claim there is that the same owner of the one that's over at Giant Fitness now is the owner of that one.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I didn't know that either.
Oh, okay.
Are we at all concerned about how many marijuana places are actually opening up in Gloucester Township?
It's been discussed.
I don't know.
A couple times.
Like, we have the TD Bank one, right?
We have around the corner from here, yeah.
Okay. We're
There's
have-
13 or 11 or 13. I forget the number, but there's quite a few that have been given letters of support from Gloucester Township.
so, but how many do we need? Like, you know, there's going to be one potentially by the Wawa on Sicklerville Road, where right off of 42.
I think the only thing that you can say is the free market is going to give us that number. Right now, you can't stop somebody from wanting to open it, and just because a letter of support was issued does not necessarily mean that it's actually ever going to open. And that's kind of the dispute going on over at the Skeeter or the Wawa and Giant Fitness one right now, because they're both claiming like, well, you've given me a letter of support and I can't be open before that. And there's like, well, I can't stop them from doing it because I don't know that yours is ever going to come to fruition and actually be built. So how do I stop him from doing it? So there's a very gray area with this whole thing. I think it's very new that you can't really stop. But I understand your the sentiment of what you're asking of like how many you need. But
Because if we get too many of these, all right, then, you know, a couple of them will go out of business, and now we
right. And that's what I'm saying. The
we
free
have a
market
building
decides
that's
it.
yeah, but the free market will decide it. But at what point do you sit there and go, well, maybe we shouldn't have 13 of these, or we shouldn't have 7. We should cap it at 4 and one at each corner of the township. I don't know if there's an answer
totally
to that.
understand what you're saying.
I'm thinking too, like, but what's the downside of that? Okay, so let's say the TD Bank one goes in over here. It's a TD Bank. Banks aren't really coming in and put their footprints in anymore. So now a dispensary comes in. They redesign the entire interior building. They come in and then they find out, hey, there's just not the demand that we thought we were. And I don't know if you've been in a dispensary. They're pretty nice places. So
I'm not arguing that.
so maybe they
they're not
redesigned
nice.
the building, so then it's better use now for
Yeah,
something
but what
else.
happens if that goes out of business because everyone's going to the Friendlies one, and everyone's going to the one by Skeeters, and that one no one's seeing.
Is
and
it
no one's
the
going.
place though?
No.
Of government
that's what I'm saying though. So somebody comes in and they redesign the TD Bank one to more of a storefront that somebody else can use. That's not a bad thing if it eventually just goes out of business.
Yes, but you know, if everybody, the problem with that is if I have a business, let's say selling widgets, and I see that building, well, I walk in, what are the odds of me actually using that building? Or as is really the question. I walk in, I go, well, this building really isn't, this was designed to be a marijuana dispensary. This doesn't work for me. And now I've got to spend extra, you know, and now we have a building that's deserted. Like, look at, for example, I know, the Kmart. The Kmart's been deserted for how long?
Yeah.
And then now the ShopRite is supposedly moving in there, but now you're going to have the other ShopRite that's deserted.
I would
Right,
argue
well, that's
that
where does the government's role in that all?
I don't know if
Like,
I don't know if there's an answer to that.
If you're saying limit dispensaries or medical marijuana or whatever they're, whatever you want to say in there, why aren't you limiting the number of restaurants that can go in? You say, oh, what if this restaurant closes down? You can't. It's up to the market to decide what goes in there, and it's not our place to say, you have a dream as an American to open up a dispensary or whatever. I shouldn't be standing in your way. If you want to go do that, and there's 20 of you that want to go do that, You know what I mean? Like, where is
Oh no,
the
I'm
government's
just
role?
saying.
I
should
understand what you're saying.
You know,
Like,
should we
it's,
be concerned? And I don't know if there's like
I
you
don't know
said,
the answer
if
either.
I don't know if there's an answer to that. Like, are we cap it at 13, or do we cap it at all? Because, like you said, it is someone's dream to open up a dispensary.
right. Well, it's like liquor licenses. That's could be somebody's dream to open up a bar and just say, I know we do have available licenses in town, but if there's not, like a town like Cherry Hill or something, say, I can't open it because there's not anymore. And that's somebody at some point in time limited it based off of a, demographics of population or whatever whatever the case was. And for your example here, we don't have anything in place who put a cap or a limit on, on what that is, but that's a state level regulation. I feel like maybe, I don't know.
Judging by how things are going now, I don't think that we're going to, at some point it seemed like, wow, we're gonna have 20 of these things. When they started opening up, the first ones that we had here, we had the one on Blackwood.
Are there any open? I don't know.
There's one on the Black Horse Pike. Kroski's are on the Black Horse Pike. Then you had the one over in Belmar, and it was kind of like, man, the lines for some of those were crazy. And now we're well into legalization here, and the lines are pretty much they're gone. Mm-hmm. They still get decent business, I would guess, but you don't have people lined up down parking lots anymore. So I think there was this big rush that everybody wanted to open one up, and I don't think that most of them are going to happen now because I don't think there's a market for it.
I keep saying that I want to have a hot dog cart right outside of one of the dispensaries and just walk up and down.
Oh, for sure. Oh, absolutely. Oh, those guys are always hungry. So yeah. So, I mean, the one in front of Sam's Club, well, the line used to go all the way into Sam's Club because my wife and I go shop at Sam's Club, and the line would go all the way around. And then the one in Belmar, we'd see those people lined up, like out on the whatever that main road is there that goes that cuts off 40th Creek Road. Yeah, they'd be lined up out there. But I never see that anymore now. So I think the demand for it's gone down now. So I don't know. I mean, if a lot of these people invested a lot of money into opening these places up, I don't think it's going to pay off. So I don't think we really have to worry about limits anymore. I mean, vape shops
like
her
too. That don't want that. One is too many, But unfortunately, it's already not unfortunately, but I'm saying unfortunately for that person's side. It's now legal, and there's the people have voted on it, and they've said they want it, and this is what it is.
Oh, you didn't get the clip about the hookah lounge.
No, I didn't.
Man, she is really. There's a hookah lounge somewhere.
Yeah, I don't know. She's way about this hookah lounge and the
and diseases and stuff like that. And there's a hookah lounge. Where's the hookah lounge? The last hookah lounge I had.
The hookah lounge is, I believe, across from the ShopRite.
Oh yeah,
by the in that shopping center, there's a automotive shop, and the Kentucky Fried Chicken's tucked away. It's not the Gloucester Township Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it's I believe
that's Lindenwold, maybe
Lindenwold's,
or
yeah.
Oh, is it
in that shopping center across from the shop?
Where the urgent care is over there, right?
Yes, there's urgent care. There's a
the vitamin used to be a vitamin store there.
And a GameStop, and there's a hookah lounge.
Oh, okay. Huh? I've never been to a hookah lounge.
There was one actually right next to where your office is. There used to be over in Barclay Shopping Center. There was like a Mediterranean restaurant over there that turned into a hookah lounge at nighttime. And
there was a pizza place I used to go to in Center City. Apparently at night times and on the weekends, it was a hookah lounge, and it was very, very popular. And I don't know, I've never been to a hookah lounge.
But they didn't. I think she believes that they smoke pot or marijuana, whatever you call it.
I think she was concerned because they were all sucking through the same thing and illnesses and stuff like that. I don't know, man.
That's all regulated by the Department of Health or the Health Department, whatever you want to call it. So
the government doesn't need to step in. If people want to do stuff like that. I mean, hookah supposedly equivalents to like a limited time in a hookah lounge is like a pack of cigarettes. Like I forget, like an hour or something like that. It's a crazy amount. and that's honestly, it's why common sense just told me I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah. But anyway, she goes into asking about the amount of time that she's allotted and all of us are allotted. So she has a lot of questions.
Why can't you increase the times from 15 minutes to 30 minutes the first half? And maybe since we get out of here so quick, I mean, there's never a time where we just have enough time that people start coming when it gets nicer weather, that you can increase the times for people to talk. How many years have you had the 15 and the 30 minutes?
I think the 30-minute portion has been increased over the years. And in fact, today we had an ordinance which allows for a public hearing if someone wanted to speak on it and no one spoke on it, and that's unlimited time. So the public had today 4 shots of speaking, whether through an e-gov, through a public hearing, through the first public portion and the second public portion.
Now, what's interesting is that unlimited time, thanks to me, is limited to 5 minutes at a time.
Right.
So in a meeting like that, if I'd actually spoke on the that agenda item, which is unlimited time, Orlando would stop me every 5 minutes and ask if there was anybody else that would like to speak on this.
Right.
And he did that with the capital projects. And
which I get. I mean, I understand to a degree that, but I don't know. I also don't. It's unlimited. I don't know.
Well, here's my take on it. If the time I stood up there for an hour, okay, I didn't go over the same things.
No, I know.
It was all different items. I was going over the capital budget. I wanted to know why things were being borrowed for that I felt that shouldn't be borrowed for. Weed whackers. How many weed whackers is it? That's the big joke. How many weed whackers does the township need? And goes back and forth with that. Mm-hmm. Computers these days are, relatively cheap. Why are we
disposable?
Yeah. Why are we borrowing for that? And the answer always is, well, the state of New Jersey allows us to do this because anything that has a useful life of 5 years or more should be borrowed for. Mm-hmm. Well, just because it should be, why are we borrowing $1,500 for 5 weed whackers at $300 a piece? Mm-hmm. I'm not even questioning the price of the weed whackers. I'm questioning why we're borrowing $1,500 when we have a township budget of $65 million.
Right.
And so I was kind of going over that, and then I would, and as I've gotten more involved with the capital budgets, I'm asking questions on, hey, you borrowed for a roof this year, you borrowed for the same roof 2 years ago, and the year before that, but the roof's still not fixed.
Right.
And you just changed the name. Like once is the municipal court, one is council, building, and then the other one's municipal building. Well, they're all the same building on police headquarters, but they're all in the same building.
And in between borrowing for that, they also took money out to repair it.
To repair the roof, but that wasn't replaced.
Right.
So, so I'm asking these questions. I wasn't once I got my answer on the weed whackers, I moved on to the next issue. But they just didn't like that because, by breaking it up over 5 minutes, it
kills your steam,
Kills, yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, if you think of it from a standpoint of you're not the only person there, so just say that it was a hot topic and there was 400 people showed up to this meeting here, and somebody prior to you getting up there spent 3 hours, an hour and a half or whatever you spent up there asking questions, you would be like, come on, really? Can I get my chance? So in a way, they're kind of breaking it up to allow other people if that were the case. However, we haven't had a scenario where anybody shows up other than yourself, me, you,
the
couple
only
people.
time people show up, and I remember this, I think it was back in, I'm going to say 16, they raised the tax rate. And everybody showed up in August because everybody got their tax bill. And I knew the tax rate was being increased back in, April.
Right, and people come out after it's way too late.
And everybody came in, and Orlando said, you guys needed to come out when we're talking about the budget back in March and April. Not now, because the budget's already been passed. The tax bills are out. There's nothing we can do about it now. So, 17 comes, election year, 0 increase. 18 comes, Pete and myself start blasting it out there. Hey, if you want to come to this budget meeting, they're raising taxes. I forget it back in 18, 8%.
Yep.
You need to come out. And I think, Joe, that's when you started. You know,
Yes, it was.
And people came out, and then the room was packed. All right, 20 wasn't packed because of COVID. 22, the room wasn't packed. But in 16 and 18, and even 14, the room was packed. But 14 and 16 were too late to do anything. 18 was packed. They didn't listen to it. 20 was COVID. They didn't listen because nobody was in the room.
All they have to do is endure that one meeting, you know? And
Yeah.
then they can get through it. That's all you got to do.
And the memories are short because people seem to forget that they're
Yeah.
raising taxes.
Yeah, and the ones that are too pissed, they just leave.
Right.
Yeah, because a lot of the people that were really informed, really knew what was going on, they left.
Yeah.
Or you have people that go up and say, older people, and say, hey, I've been in this township for 40 years. You're pricing me out.
Yeah.
And that breaks my heart when someone's saying, I've been here for 40 years
Yep.
and you're now pricing me out. Is there anything we can do? You can do. And they just
Nope.
sit there and do nothing. It's like crickets sometimes.
Well, yeah, that was the most heartbreaking part. I mean, in 18, well, in 18 I was pretty broke, but I thought, I can get through this. But the people that were up there that had I can
Fixed
go
income people, older.
I can go and get a better job. I can get a raise. I can go do whatever I need to do. These people are retired and they're on fixed incomes and they've lived here their entire lives. I can move. It's not a spot for me that my parents live down the street. And it's great being close to them. I can move. Some of these people, this is all they've ever known, and now they're getting thrown out of it, and that's what really bugged me the most. And that's what started this whole thing was those people.
Right. Well, I don't want to say laugh, but it's funny when people say like, "Well, I'll move out of here." They don't care that you're going to move out of here because guess what? Someone else is going to move in and take over. You know that. And guess what? If there is no tax coming in, it gets levied from someone else. It's not like you hurt them in any which way if you moved out. You know.
Yeah. Every time a neighbor on the street leaves,
another one moves in. The
another
taxes
one
are still
moves
the same.
in
Somebody's paying
from up north where the taxes are higher.
Right.
And they come in down here, and then eventually they look. The last one lasted 2
Delaware.
years next door, and now they're in Delaware.
Yeah.
Good riddance to them, but they were terrible. But they went they came down. And they go, that's not it either. They went to Delaware.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that was pretty much it for the January 22nd meeting here. The only other really thing that happened was the chief did give good news about the child that was hit at was that Hickstown Road?
This was
was horrible.
on Hickstown Road. There's a young lady that goes to Gloucester Township Technical Schools.
No, Camden County Technical.
Camden County Technical. I'm saying Gloucester Township campus. I went to that school. Somebody blew through the
bus's red lights.
Stop
sign thing and
hit this girl.
Hit a girl.
Apparently it from what I gathered, doing a little bit of digging on. My wife got digging into it. Was hit with some force. I mean,
they said she was lucky to be alive.
This girl was thrown under the bus when she was hit. This was a story, man, that I don't. It was one of those things that just kind of grabbed me, and I was like, man, what the hell are people so?
Everyone's the main character in their own world, and it's like, there's a bus going. I don't care. I need to get here. I'm going around, and boom.
I tell you,
accident like that happens.
When I turn on the Sicklerville Road, it is at least once every 2 weeks when I go down to Sicklerville Road and the light turns green, somebody flies through it. So it's to the point now where you can't go on green because somebody flies through every light. And I was so pissed off by this, but at the same time, man, just really, really hurt about this child that's just gone to school and they just got, this is going to change that child's life forever.
Yep.
It was not, but the chief did get an update, and I guess the girl is going through a lot of surgeries.
Yeah, she was having heart
Yeah.
surgery almost every day or something, but she was alive, and I don't really have any further updates from that. It was a couple
Now
days
we kind
ago
of
now.
followed the story, and it's yeah. I mean, it's positive in the fact that the child is still alive, but still terrible.
But yeah, I guess to leave on a better note, we will see you
Snow
guys.
removal. Oh wait, we didn't.
What?
Snow removal.
Oh, we did, yeah.
Man, everybody in this meeting was like, oh, "Thank you, Public Works, for clearing our snow. What would we have done without you guys?" Meanwhile, everywhere else in the township, people were on social media going, "Where the hell are our plows?" There is look, my street didn't see anybody on from a plow until like days later.
It was all gone. Plow drives by.
Yeah, like I got out to like Guardwood was kind of a mess, and then I got to Williamstown Aerial Road, and that was kind of like, all right, that was drivable, but there were no plows anywhere. And then like days later, I guess the plows finally came. The plows, I don't know, they scooped the slush off the road, and then everybody's like, thank God for Public Works and their plows. And I was like, this is what we're conditioned to.
Yeah.
We're conditioned to, man, thank God a plow showed up and did
Premium service for you.
and gave us those premium services. Where like other places I lived, it was just kind of like, all right, stop snowing. Oh, there's the plow. You know, but here it was just
So you could have been like what happened in my neighborhood.
What happened in your neighborhood?
no nothing.
No, we got plowed, and there was
No.
there was a bunch of snow in front of my driveway.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know if it was,
Oh, you got plowed in?
I got, plowed in. My wife was like, "We got plowed in." And I'm like, "Yeah, we got plowed in." And she's like, "Oh, the guy did an idiot, can't believe he did that." And I'm at the end of a cul-de-sac. And I just was looking and I didn't say anything and I just went out and shoveled it.
Now, all the rest of the neighbors in the cul-de-sac, were they plowed in also?
No.
No. Okay, so it was.
It was intentional.
I don't know if it was intentional or just, because I'm at the end of that
Huge
cul-de-sac.
coincidence.
I'm at the curve of the cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
so he came around, got everybody's cars, came back around, and, I know, like, he was plowing as I was pulling in that night, so I backed up to let him, plow, and he backed up and then kind of did a loop-de-loop, and then went, like, left this whole big pile of snow behind my wife's car in the driveway. Thank God it was the light snow. So that could have happened to you.
Oh, yeah,
Well, you've got a lot of friends in this town, Sam.
yeah, I feel like I'm still unknown. I'm still unknown enough that they don't plow me in.
Yeah.
So they just don't plow.
There you go.
That's my street. They just didn't plow at all. So that is it. We are.
Yeah, we're
basically
quite
caught
a
up.
long time, but yeah, now we're caught up, and we'll
it's
be
like
back on a
an
regular
hour.
schedule for you guys.
Hour and 30 minutes into this deal. So, but we are caught up, and
If you're not subscribed, hit the subscription button. Turn the notifications on.
yeah, tell your friends too. We need some
Yeah.
more. We want to get some more subscribers, and we want to continue to grow this thing. And we have fun. We hope you guys have a little more fun than watching our council meetings. So,
Yeah, we'll
Subscribe.
see you guys all soon.
we'll talk to you soon. Check out the next podcast.
All right, see you guys.